A deposition is the defendant's opportunity to ask you questions under oath about how the incident occurred, your injuries and medical care, how you're doing today, and any future care that you're going to need in the future. The best way to answer the questions is really simple, and it's the most important thing about a deposition. Tell the truth. If you tell the truth, you're going to do great on your deposition. You should not anticipate questions. One of the keys to performing well on a deposition is to focus on the question that's being asked and only answer that question. Many questions will be yes or no questions. And if it's a yes or no question, guess what? You give a yes or no answer. Oftentimes, clients are thinking, well, I think I know where he's going with the next question, or I think I know what he's getting at, so let me just answer that instead. Don't do that. It's important to just focus on the question at hand and only answer that question. The clients who do best at a deposition are the ones who only answer the question that is asked. During a deposition, you're going to have to answer all of the questions that are asked. But of course, one of your attorneys from Carpenter & Zuckerman will be there with you to defend you and make sure that the defendant attorneys aren't asking you any questions that are an invasion of your privacy or outside the scope of information that is reasonably calculated to lead to the discovery of admissible evidence. So don't worry, your attorneys are there to protect you. However, there may be times where some tough questions are asked and you're going to have to answer those. But don't worry, your attorneys will have you prepared to answer any and all questions that are asked at your deposition. If you don't know the answer to a question at a deposition, that's okay. It's not a memorization test. There will be questions that you don't know the answer to. When that occurs, you can just say, I don't know, or I don't recall, and that's a completely fine answer. However, if you're asked a question and you have some personal knowledge of what the answer is, you should tell them what you know. But make sure you tell them that it's either a guess or an estimate. During a deposition, it's important that you don't guess. But if you can give an estimate, it's important that you do so. So let me explain to you the difference between a guess and an estimate. If I were to ask you how long the table is at my house, that would be a pure guess, right? Because chances are you've never been to my house. And maybe I don't even have a table there, right? But if I was to ask you, how long is the dining room table at your home, even though you've probably never measured it with a ruler, you can probably come up with some type of estimate about how long it is. So in that situation, you would just tell the person, well, my best estimate is that my table is about 3 feet long or about 4 feet long. The key there is when you're giving an estimate, tell us. Say, hey, my best estimate is, or the estimate is this, because it's important that we give the other side the information that we do have. We don't want you to go into the deposition and just say, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. That doesn't sound too good, and also it's not giving the other side the information they need to evaluate your claim. So in these cases, if you truly don't know and have absolutely no knowledge, the example being, how long is the table at my house, where you have no knowledge of that, it's completely okay to say, I don't know. Alternatively, if you have some knowledge of it and you can give some type of estimate, it's important that you give that estimate and you say, my best estimate is. During a deposition, you can change your answers. However, it's important that you give your best testimony during the deposition. If there is a time where you feel like you want to change your answer, it's best to discuss that with your attorney at the break. You can take as many breaks as you want during the deposition. The only time you cannot take a break is if there's a question pending. So when there's a good time, take a break and speak with your attorney and say, Mr. or Mrs. Attorney, I think I might have answered that question incorrectly. This is what I think is the right answer. And your attorney will find a good opportunity for you to explain that on the record. And it might be by way of your attorney asking you the question again and allowing you to change your answer. So the short answer is Yes, you can change your answer to the questions that are posed, but it's best if you give your best testimony the first time. Prior to your deposition, you can review your discovery responses, and that's a great idea. Oftentimes, you will have already responded to interrogatories, which ask you questions about how the incident occurred, who your medical providers are, how many medical bills you have, your injuries, and treatment. It's a great way to prepare for your deposition, and that way you can review it and feel comfortable and confident before you go to your deposition. So it's always a good idea to ask your attorney for a copy of your written discovery responses for you to review in preparation for your deposition. Reviewing interrogatories is always a good idea. In California, they're known as form interrogatories. In Washington, they're known as pattern interrogatories. These interrogatories are set questions about your date of birth, the date of the crash, your past medical history, the history of how the crash occurred, who are the medical providers you saw, what your medical bills are, how the incident occurred, any future medical care you need, any prior or subsequent injuries you've suffered. So it's a great way to refresh your memory about a lot of the questions that the defense attorneys will ask you at your deposition. So it is a good idea to review those in preparation for your deposition. Oftentimes, people are nervous about a deposition, but don't be nervous. Want to know why? You're the expert. Why is that? Well, nobody has lived this case but you, all right? Not the attorney who's representing you, not the attorney who's asking you questions. You're the only person that went through that crash or went through that fall. You're the only person that sat in those waiting rooms, that had those medical treatments done to you. So I want you to feel comfortable and confident that you're the expert. Now, don't get that confused with you having to remember every single detail of your case. That's what medical records are for. That's what medical bills are for. That's what the police report is for. But I want you to feel comfortable and confident that you're the star of this show because this is your life, you lived it. Now it's your time to tell your story.